Hello everyone, this is Phoebe. So this week I decided to do the recording instead of the live for my book discussion. As you know, I go live every Sunday to do the book discussion, where I pick a theme in each chapter of my book to discuss on the live. However, I noticed that because there's issues with the audio, it just keeps dropping and missing words sometimes. I have tried to get the new microphone, but it still doesn't really work, and I think it's because of the Wi-Fi. It somehow doesn't transmit it well with the YouTube live. I don't have this problem with Zoom when I use my new microphone, but only with YouTube live that I have that problem. So I don't know what to do. So it's important for me to send a message out there. That's the reason why I decided to do the recording. The reason that I like doing live is, first of all, I push myself not to procrastinate, because when I do recording like this, literally, this is like, I have done several texts for this recording. With live, just one shoot, I don't have to do anything else. And the power went out in the middle of the way. So now I have to redo the whole recording since the beginning. Anyhow, that's the reason why I don't like to do recording, because I get myself stuck into perfectionism, and I just delay it and I procrastinate. I don't put things out there as fast as I should. So that's why doing live helped me to overcome that procrastination issue. And also because I enjoy connecting with people on live as well, so that when I go live and you ask any questions, then I'm able to respond to it right away. So I enjoy that aspect of communication back and forth, rather than doing just recording, just myself talking. It's kind of boring. However, it's a bit less disruptive, so my thoughts is more coherent. It's not being interrupted all the time, and then I have to go back and try to remember what I'm talking about. However, there has been a few disruption today because of the technology as well. I don't know, technology doesn't really work for me lately. For the last few weeks, it's really annoying, but I'm trying to navigate through it and getting this message out there. So this week on the book discussion is based on the chapter 7 of my book, and the theme that I picked today is all about forgiving, specifically in our relationship with other people, how forgiving help us actually heal and not passing on the pain to other people or carry forward to another relationship. In my book, I talk about my process of forgiving after leaving my past relationship, and how that's helped me heal tremendously, and I could feel it in my body. And what I did was to write down all the things that people hurt me in the past, and also me hurt other people in the past as well. And I wrote like 6 pages later, and I make a video about that. I think it's the video She Let Go, the video with the poem She Let Go. That is the part in the book. I talk about that. I talk about that in that video, how it helps me heal after I wrote out everything that that hurt me, and or everyone that hurt me. And by writing it down, I actually transmute that energy. And I remember I just cried a lot after I wrote that out, and I just threw it into the lake or the river. You can also do this by burning it, or bury it, or throw it to the lake for Mother Earth or the river or the ocean. Let it wash it out, or just let the universe help you transmute this negative energy. So that's what I did for my to learn how to forgive and let on the grief surface up, let on the pain surface up. Just acknowledge all of these emotion. When writing it out, it was tremendously helpful, and I could feel that my body is lighter the next day. Because I had back pain at that time, and the next day I could feel like the pain was a little easier. It eased up on my upper back. And I think that forgiving is so incredibly important in relationship, because if you don't forgive, you're gonna carry that pain from the past to your next relationship, and you're gonna keep recreating the same history, the same past. So it's important to let that go. It's important to forgive other people and forgive ourselves before moving into another relationship with someone else. And for the most part, we don't know how to deal with anger, how to deal with negative emotion, because we're not taught about this in school, in family, by other people. We're not taught, unless we go see therapists, if you go to coaching. So most of the time, that's the reason why we react, because we don't know how to respond. We don't know how to process this negative emotion, this anger, or the frustration, the grief, all of that. We don't know how to deal with that. And that's why it's easier for us to react to revenge. But when we react, we are also emanate that negative energy out there to the universe. So the karma is going to come back to us, right? That's how we create a ripple effect of in the world, either in the positive direction or in the negative direction. When we are hurt, we're gonna try to hurt other people. But when we feel good and we love ourselves, we feel confident about ourselves, we are able to help other people heal by expressing that positive energy. And so that's why it's important for us to learn to heal ourselves first, because when we are healed, the world will also be healed as well. And so we need to learn how to process our emotion, our anger properly. I did this in the past, that I also reacted a lot in the past with my anger pretty badly. I wasn't very nice to the person who hurt me. But then I realized that when I learned to look at things in different perspective, and when I realized that the truth that you see is not the whole truth, because we live in a very holographic universe. What you see in front of you may not be the whole story, because we have to put ourselves in other people's perspective in order to see different truth. And that's how we get to learn to be compassionate and to let go of our anger, and we learn how to deal with our emotion properly and maturely. Okay, so I decided to do recording to not have technology disrupt me, and guess what happened? The power went out. Oh my god, I cannot believe it. It's the first time ever in Canada that I experienced blackout. Anyhow, let's go back to the topic. I don't know why I had too much problem with technology these days. So I think I was talking about anger, how to express anger, because most of the time we don't know how to express anger, probably because we are only reacting according to our emotion. Like when we're angry, when we get pissed off or frustrated, it's harder to control our emotion. So how do we process it? So first of all, you need to learn to control your emotion, to be first aware of it. And when you learn how to process it properly, then you can take a step back and choose whether you should react or respond to a certain situation. I know that it's very hard to take a step back, especially if someone crossed the boundary, if someone hurt you deliberately, or someone being rude to you. It can be very difficult, but we all have to acknowledge that there's karma and there's justice, because if we react the same way that they do to us, we still have to pay that for that reaction anyway. So it's important to acknowledge and take a step back. Yeah, it's all about being practiced and have that awareness first. So how do we express anger properly? I think that either you write it out like what I did, or talk to someone, or vent it out, or just like scream, go somewhere and scream and let it out, and but not in front of someone else, not letting it like this energy to transfer to someone else, but in any way that you help you to release. For some people it may be like punching a pillow, or go kickboxing. So those are the activities that may help you to process the anger. Probably not everything, but it can help you to calm down and to come into a state of balance before respond to a certain situation. For me though, I did release my anger in a very bad way, because I didn't learn how to process it properly until I I realized that no, that wasn't the right thing to do, because not only it hurt someone, it also hurt me in the process. So it's so critical that we need to be aware of this and not letting this negative energy give transmute or transfer from one person to another, because it's just keep rolling and rolling. Because if you do something bad to someone else because of your bad emotion, that person is going to carry forward to another person. So it's like a ripple effect, either in a positive way or in a negative way. So if we do something good in a positive way, it's going to create the domino effect, the ripple effect. But if we do something negative or say something negative, it's going to have the same ripple effect as well, but in a opposite direction. And that's the reason why there's a saying, hurts people. So if we don't want it to carry forward, then we need to process it within ourselves first. And that's the reason why we have to take a step back and choose wisely what to do with our emotion. Because if we don't want it to carry forward, we have to completely process it within ourselves before we move on and getting into another relationship. Even if it doesn't carry forward like immediately, over time it will be carried forward to another person. And so yeah, the history is still gonna repeat itself. So another aspect that I want to talk into is what can help us to help us not to react to that anger is compassion, right? Because sometimes when we see the situation, it's only in one perspective. It's not all about the truth. And I learned so much about this in my past relationship. It's not the whole truth. Even like this, our universe it can be holographic, which means it has many different points of view. It has many different truths. It has different perspective, different angles, no matter how you look at it. So unless if you put yourself in someone else's shoes, then you will understand their life and their perspective. So when we're angry or we have frustration, it's because we only see it in our perspective, but we don't see it from other people's perspective. So when hurt people are trying to hurt someone, I think the first thing that will help you to be more compassionate for that person is to know that that person is also hurt somewhere or somewhere in the past by another person. So it's not that everyone is deliberately trying to hurt us. It's because they too were hurt in the past by a certain event or by some people. For instance, like my parents, they were hurt as well in the past because of the war, because poverty, because life was just really tough. So they didn't have a lot of choices. So sometimes it's not because they want to hurt us, but that is also our own interpretation that someone tried to hurt me. But sometimes it's not the truth that they deliberately want to hurt us. Sometimes it just have to be that way. And sometimes hurtful events happen in order to get you out of get you out of a certain place in your life that otherwise you're gonna get stuck. I remember that just recently, actually, I let someone come into the house to check out the house because my last roommate was moving out, and we have the house open for everyone to come and check out the place. And so this man, he came and he checked out the room, and I didn't want to judge people because of their appearance, but he has the appearance of some, I wouldn't say homeless, but someone would be dangerous. And there was only me, Marco, and my roommate, so 2 girls and a dog. And Marco was ferociously barking at him. And in that moment, I was thinking like why Marco was like so aggressive. But he appeared to be friendly. He has the look of someone would do something bad. I don't know. But his manner and his action seems to be friendly. But Marco didn't trust him, so he ferociously barking at him, and he did not let the guy come into the house, but I let the guy come into the house because I just tried to be nice. So it's got me to think that about Marco's perspective, right? Because I always see one perspective, and could be like there could be another truth that this man has done something bad, and that's the reason why Marco picked up on it, and that's why he react in a certain way, very aggressive toward the guy. But for me, I only see his manner, and I was trying to be nice, and I did not even want to I did not even want to let the guys in, but I just wanted to be nice, so I let the guy in. So that wasn't very smart. I should have just said no, right? I should have just Marco. But yeah, we all have different perspective like that, and sometimes we don't see what others people see, or sometimes we don't even know their past, so we cannot really judge them based on their behavior, their actions when they interact with us. Dogs is like in a different area. It's not just they can smell certain things, so they're very sensitive with people. But I do think that Marco did pick up something that negatively about the guy. Eventually he's not staying here anyway, and nothing really happened in the end. But that's just an example of like how we have different perspective, but what we perceive, what we interpret in front of us may not be the whole truth of the whole story. There could be like other story behind them, we don't know. And it's like I recently learned a pretty interesting geometry about perspective, that if you look at the cylinder in one angle, it's a rectangular, but if you look at in a different angle, it's like a circle. So but both of that is just one aspect of truth of the cylinder, but it's not the whole truth, right? The whole truth is the cylinder itself, which is something that we have to go into a high perspective in order to see it. But if we just see it directly from one angle, we don't see that it's a cylinder. So sometimes we need to, that's the reason why sometimes we need to put ourselves in someone else's perspective or someone else's life in order to understand their pain, in order to have more compassion for their life, and to know that it is not them who deliberately try to hurt us. So why do we have to hold on to this pain or this anger or this frustration? Because it is what we hold on to is what actually hurt us. It's not those people that hurt us. Because that's what manifests in our body. But we have the powers of choice to let it go and release these negative emotion, so that we can transmute it, so that we can transform it to something else more positive. And compassion is one of the tools that help us to transform, because it's help us to perceive things in a different perspective by understanding the other person or the one that hurt us. And once we are more open and more compassionate for their lives, their situation, it's so much easier to forgive as well. Because there's nothing to hold back to, and from there we just realize that we all are really in one, and that's why we keep passing either negative emotion or positive emotion to one another. But for the pain to stop, we have the choice to stop it first within ourselves, so that it doesn't pass it down to another person. So that's how, when we heal ourselves, we are able to heal the world or the people around us. I hope that makes sense. So, okay, I'm just looking at my notes here just to make sure that I don't forget all the point about forgiving, because I think this is such an interesting and important topic. I also realized that for some people it's harder for them to forgive themselves. It's easier to forgive other people, but it's harder to forgive themselves. It's very interesting because they're so critical and judgmental toward themselves. And because of that, they don't feel that they are worthy of love. They not worthy being in relationship. It's really hurt their self-esteem, because they feel like, oh, I have done something bad to someone else because that person do something bad to me as well. So sometimes it's like, oh, I can forgive that person, but I can't forgive what I have done to other people. I think because it's rooted in the fear of shame, not being worthy, and low self-esteem, and that's why it's hard for them to forgive themselves. And when they're not allowed to, when they don't forgive themselves, they not allow themselves to be in another relationship, because there always gonna be a wall putting up, because they always live in the past. Because their life are mostly in the past, is what we pay attention to, is what we give energy to, and that's what we actually create. So even if they get involved in another relationship, they still recreate that reality, because that wound is still not healed. Even if they could forgive someone else, but if they're not forgiving themselves, then that wound is still gonna be there, and sometimes it's actually a little deeper. So you need to dig deeper in order to process this emotion, in order to forgive yourself first, so you can be free to be in another relationship, to be more open to everyone around you. So it's hard to be compassionate with yourself, and that's why it's hard to love ourselves first, because you can't love yourself, then you can't love other people. Because if you don't know how to fulfill your own needs by loving yourself first, then you're not going to be successful in loving or giving that conditional love to other people. There's still going to be always that frustration, or some issues going to come up. So that's why we need to be independent. And sometimes when we don't have that love, we try to seek it from other people, or we try to put up a wall and just freeze ourselves out until we're miserable enough, and just give digging ourselves into a hole, right? So it's very important to acknowledge that we are also hurt, and that's the reason why in the past we have hurt other people, and that we are not deliberately, subconsciously trying to hurt other people. So acknowledge that that wound has been rooted within you. Could be a long time ago that you don't even know. Like even other devil on the hurt people. We are also hurt people. Like we carry this trauma from our childhood. So everyone's hurt. So acknowledge that first. A devil is not a devil when they were a baby until someone hurt them, then they turn into an evil person, right? So something has to hurt them first. We at our essential self are pure being, like babies do not hurt anyone, right? So have that compassion to yourself first, so that you can learn to forgive all your bad behaviors and all your bad action in the past, because that's not really who you are, right? So because other people hurt you as well. So let all of that go and forgive yourself, in order to line up the weight, to heal your inner wound, so you can be lighter, so you can move on to another relationship that is more harmonious and more fulfilling. And what I noticed is that as you go along the way, you're gonna start seeing the patterns of your relationship. Often they are very similar if you pay attention. Even you don't want to repeat the same mistake, but until you really root this down, until you really understand the patterns, you really learn to heal your inner wound and forgive it all, then yes, the pattern is going to repeat itself. And it's fascinating for me to see that. And once you let go of that, you disrupt the pattern. Once you disrupt the pattern, it doesn't repeat anymore. Or the scale of the patterns is actually less significant. It doesn't seem like, oh my god, like a tremendous mountains or like a big issue anymore. There could be the resemblance of that in the next relationship, and when that happen, even though you already healed from the past, and if you could see that patterns in the next relationship, it means there's still something else that need to be processed and it's not healed yet. So you need to go and dig a little deeper and see what is there. So always go inside and ask yourself first, because other people is always the mirror to for you to reflect your shadow, your inner self. So that's why relationship is a way for you to grow as a person, when you really know how to look into the mirror, look into that mirror of your relationship and what you don't like about that person. And when you process that and reflect it back, use that as a mirror and reflect it back to see your shadow, your inner self. And that's how you get to identify your wound, and what you can do about it to heal it. I think it was Rumi that said is the the trigger or the wound is what the light enter you. So if you go into the relationship with someone else and that person did something that you don't like and you feel like you're being triggered by it, then instead of pointing it down for doing something bad to you, then that trigger is actually the light to help you see your inner wound, like what is it in you that need to be healed first. And sometimes the problems could be both ways as well. It could be that that person is not healed, so they do something that they're not aware of, that actually hurt someone else, that actually trigger someone else to trigger the pain in someone else. So when you use this mirror effect in relationship to understand yourself and to understand other people, and to also acknowledge the compassion for all of our past that we have gone through, in order to forgive for what they have done to you, in order for you to heal also. So if someone did something that triggered you, look at that wound and ask yourself, what is it in me that still need to be healed, while having compassion for the other person and knowing that they are hurt somewhere as well, and they may not be acknowledging that. So it's not, so we don't necessarily need to react to it and be nasty or be angry at them for what they have done. But once you take a step back and learn where you hurt, learn where else you can heal, that is when you can actually sit down and have the conversation, to like open conversation, to process what have happened, and to understand its other perspective. Once you already heal that part, it's so much easier to have the conversation without any anger, without pointing finger at each other. Because we have more compassion, we are more open, so it's much easier for us to understand without having a wall put up, and the conversation it's not about like anger or arguments, but more about compromising in a way that work for both parties, right? So that's how I learned to heal and to navigate about issues in relationship. Because like every time you have arguments and someone says something that hurts you, it's very easy to react. But if you take a step back and realize your wound, realize your shadow, your trigger, then it's so much easier when you process that. It's so much easier for you to take the next step to express your feelings, your emotion in a very open-hearted way to your partners, to the other party, and the other person will also have to do the same. But it takes at least one person to do it first for two to heal. Even if it doesn't necessarily take two people to do it, but if you can be the role model to do that, and also to guide your partner to go through the same process as well, then it would be a lot even easier for the communication to move forward in a positive direction, to compromise and to come up with a solution that works for both in the future, and that event would not happen again. And I think by doing that, we gain more respect for each other as well. And I think that's where you can build foundation for a long-lasting relationship. So that start with communication. So that help to resolve communication, because most of the time communication is the problem in relationship. We don't communicate. That's why we don't understand each other. And even like you have the spark in the beginning, like that romantic spark, whatever, but it's not gonna last through like years of relationship if you don't communicate. So when you communicate open-heartedly, and speak your soul out, that's how we get to understand our partner, and that's how they get to understand us as well, and be more vulnerable with each other. So because we open up our vulnerability by communication, by understanding our wound first, then it's a lot easier to be more compassionate to ourselves and to other person as well. So I hope that from my experience is going to help you to navigate your relationship, because it has helped me tremendously to understand myself, my wounds, my shadow, and to grow as a person. And what I realized after this process is that we don't need to be dependent on anyone to be in relationship. And there's also less insecurity in relationship as well. Once you have gone through all of that and you realize there's nothing really can, not that many things can really hurt you anymore in relationship, because you are so much more secure within yourself. There's not a lot of jealousy issue actually when you open up with other people more and connect with other people more deeply through openly with your heart and through vulnerability. you know that it's gonna just strengthen the relationship a lot more. And even if the relationship doesn't work after that, it's because for the positive reason, because it could be because that you need to heal. Do you grow up enough through that relationship, and that you need to, and now you need to grow separately. So sometimes the relationship is only for you to help you see your shadow, see your wounds in order to grow. And once that goal has been accomplished within that relationship, you may stay or you may leave. It depends on the different dynamic of the relationship. And even if you leave, it's still in a very harmonious separation. It's not like, oh, you hurt me, so I'm gonna leave you. But it's more like we're still within that how do I say it, within that bubble of relationship. It's just so, like, you can still remain the relationship with them in a different way. Like, it's not hurtful, it's just more like friendship, and it's just so much more at ease. There's no anger, there's no resentment, there's no judgment. So that's what it's like when you get to process all of that growth, all of that triggers in the relationship. Either you're gonna stay together, or even if you separate, it's still very harmonious. So the recap of this, of forgiving, is to first not just forgiving other people, but also forgiving ourselves, to be compassionate toward other people and also toward ourselves, by understanding that everyone is hurt, everyone carries their pain in one way or another, and that's what's induced into us. I think it's just because we're human, so we are being subject by that pain. So no one deliberately hurt another people. There's no pure evil. It's really because we all hurt first, because of this childhood wound that we carry from the past. It can even pass, like, from generation to generation, from lives to lives. So really, at our essential core being, we are pure and we are goodness, right? So all this indoctrination and pain is, we are just the product of that. Our ego and our pain is just a product of that passing on to us. So that's why we hurt other people and other people hurt us. So by understanding that, will help you to have more compassion for other people, because in some way someone hurt you, always acknowledge it from the back of your head, that that person has been hurt some way, somehow, in the past as well. So have that compassion first, would be easier for you to forgive. And learn to deal with your anger properly, instead of passing it to another person. That's another thing, 3 point. And open communication would also strengthen your relationship, by first understanding that relationship is the mirror effect to help you grow, And knowing that, you would be able to look at relationship is a way of growth, right? So whenever you have triggers, that's the purpose of the relationship, to help you see your wound, so that when you process this wound, understand it, we can grow as a result of it, and so we can heal from it. Because without relationship, sometimes we don't see these wounds. That's why we need these triggers. That's the beauty of triggers. That's the purpose of the relationship. With ourselves, like, it's easy, like we don't see anything. That's why we need the mirror to see our face, to wear clothes. Without a mirror, we can't see it. And so in order for us to see our inner wounds, we need the relationship. We need the other person to hold up the mirrors for us to see. So understanding that when you go into a relationship, will help you a lot to not react to the trigger, but instead process that wound first, so that you can have open communication with vulnerability, and strengthen your relationship through those open communication. And it's just a lot easier to communicate when you don't have that anger anymore. So much easier to understand and to be compassionate with the other person as well. Yeah, and talk about perspective, and I think those are all the points that I want to cover in this theme. So I'm hoping that this is helpful for everyone, and that now that you have this awareness, this knowledge, hopefully you can see your relationship with other people differently, and not letting the trigger affect you as much. And hopefully that is also, by practicing this, it will help you to strengthen your relationship with other people and within yourself as well. That's the most important thing. Relationship within yourself first before with other people. Otherwise, we cannot fulfill our own needs and our own desires, and if we can't do that, we cannot have relationship with other people as well. So that's why forgiving yourself is so important. That's all I have for you today, and I just want to share with you that I just got the hardcover for my book. It's actually very, very nice. The colors are so much clearer. You can see that is so much better than the paperback. I still have the paperback over here too. It's slightly different, I think. This is the paperback and this is the hardcover. But it's not too much different. But the inside, the cover from the inside is chapter 7. The color is significantly different between the paperback and the hardcover. So yeah, I think regardless, this one is a little bit better, I think. So I was just curious to see what's the difference between the paperback and the hardcover. I'm very happy how they both turned out. So if you're curious about my book, you want to check it out, make sure you go into my website, livingthroughalchemy.com, and to download the first chapter and to everything that I discussed today is the stories is in the book, and I just expand the theme of one theme in the story a little deeper, a little bigger, so that you can understand the story better, and also that it helps you to gain some insight about life, for your own growth as well. So yeah, paperback or hardcover, it doesn't matter which one you choose. Of course, this one is a little bit more expensive because of the color, but it takes so long to get. It's just easier to go with a paperback, I think. So yeah, if you want to learn about my book, it's available on Amazon, or go to my website. Just download the first chapter first and see how you like it. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully I don't forget anything else. And if you have any questions or comments or something that you want to share about your relationship, what your thought is about this theme, leave it in the comments. And if there's any questions, that I will answer it. Lastly, if you have read the book and if you enjoy the story, please make sure that you leave the ratings or reviews on Amazon. That would be tremendously helpful to me, because that would really help you spread the message to many people. So because the more ratings and the more reviews I get, the easier for the book to be found on Amazon system, so that other people can find my book if they need it, if it's meant for them to find it. Hopefully it would give them the inspiration to live differently, or any insight that I live in my book that would be helpful for them. So, but it's my job first to make it more accessible to people, and the rest, it will be up to you and the universe and how it's gonna play out, whoever gonna need my book. But it's, of course, I'm gonna count on everyone to help me with that and spread the message. And yeah, and hopefully that this time you learn how to forgive and just be kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself and to other people. That's all, you guys. Until next time, I will see you in the next live or the next recording. Probably the next recording. I don't think I'm gonna do live anymore if YouTube Live doesn't work with the Wi-Fi that I have at home, because there's nothing I can do with it. So yeah, until the next video, have a great week ahead. Bye guys.